Not like this we did. Not like this we did. Not like this we did. Oh, not like this we did. 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 Oh, not like this we did. 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 Oh, not like this we did.
Greetings, curious cats, and welcome to our first full episode of Curiosity Feeds the Cat. Today's episode is entitled The Mysterious Archaic Human Skeleton of Nigeria, and this is a subject that has interested me for a considerable length of time. As a matter of fact, human evolution really fascinates me, and I look forward to learning about the latest discoveries. I follow most of the experts in the field religiously, for lack of a better word, and this episode is one that I'm really excited to bring to you. In 1922, in the town of Isharu in Ondostate, Nigeria, a local man on a hunting expedition stumbled on a previously unknown rock shelter. This was subsequently named Ihoeleru, which loosely translates as the Cave of Ashes. 40 years later, in 1965, a team led by British archaeologist Thurston Shaw discovered a human skeleton along with over 500,000 later Stone Age artifacts. What was remarkable about this skeleton was that it had anatomical features that did not look like any modern human. Now, in the last 100 years or so, numerous archaic human fossils have been discovered in Africa. But what usually sets them apart is that they look significantly different to modern humans as we understand it. It has become relatively commonplace to find archaic human fossils in the eastern and the southern part of the continent of Africa. However, finding fossils in West Africa was very rare indeed, and what made this fossil particularly interesting was that not only was it unexpected, but it had a lot of surprises in store for us. For many years, certain physical characteristics of archaic humans has been well known. For example, the pronounced brow ridge that you find on Neanderthals, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo erectus, Homo habilis. We don't have fossils for Denisovans, so we don't know what they look like, but there's a very good chance that they also possess this pronounced brow ridge. The Ihoeleru fossil looked like it had a mixture of modern features and what we assume to be archaic features. So it was quite predictable to think that this must be very old. At the very least, it must be about 30 to 40,000 years old. When the ash surrounding the skeleton was dated, it produced an estimate of 9,000 to 11,000 years old. However, a later revised dating conducted by Katerina Havarti and Chris Stringer came back with a date of between 13 and 16,000 years old. Here, Professor Chris Stringer of the British Natural History Museum talks a little bit about this particular fossil, and I would like to seize this opportunity to thank him for giving me permission to include this clip in my video.
This is a replica of a skull from Nigeria, and it was dug up in 1965 by Thurston Shaw and his team, an archaeologist. It is about 13,000 years old, and my colleague Katerina Havarti used a new technique of digitizing the surface of the skull in 1972, and she found, as I did, that it does not look like recent African material. So here we've got a recent African skull, and here's the skull from Ihoeleru in Nigeria. You can see that this skull is much longer, it's much lower, and all in all, it's got a much more what we could call primitive appearance, even though it's only 13,000 years old. And in Katerina's analyses, she found that the nearest neighbour in terms of the overall shape of the skull was this specimen from Tanzania, from a site called Ngaloba, which is, we think, about 140,000 years old. So you've got a specimen that's only 13,000 years old, but it looks like it should be, another 100,000 years older in terms of its shape.
So what's going on?
So this suggests that human evolution in Africa was more complex, that the transition to modern humans was not a straight kind of transition and then a cut-off. The archaic humans did not necessarily die away once they'd given rise to modern humans. They may have been living in some parts of Africa alongside, in a sense, their descendants, and perhaps exchanging genes with them. Just as Neanderthals seem to have interbred with people outside of Africa, archaic humans in Africa could have been interbreeding with modern humans inside of Africa, and this skull may show a reflection of that interbreeding between archaic and modern humans.
What this suggests is that archaic humans with these, what you would call primitive features, persisted in Africa until fairly recently. What we now know from the genetic evidence is that there were at least 4 or 5 different species of humans living alongside each other in Africa at the same time. We now have evidence that not only did we share our planet with other archaic humans, but that we also interbred with them. So evidence of archaic introgression, or simply put, DNA from archaic humans, has been found in all modern humans. There used to be the idea that Africans do not share DNA with archaic humans. This has now been corrected. We have found evidence of archaic introgression in Africans. We have found evidence of Neanderthal introgression in Eurasians. We have found evidence of Denisovan introgression in parts of Europe and in Asia and Oceania. So essentially, what does this mean? This means that we're a mixed bunch. There were other humans that shared the planet with us, and there was a little bit of hanky-panky going on, as you would expect. Now, what I always found intriguing was that I used to think that if all this interbreeding was going on amongst all these different hominins, surely there must be a similar scenario in Africa. And we didn't know this until fairly recently, and not so much because we have fossil evidence, but because we started to look for DNA evidence. There is now evidence that some Africans possess DNA from an archaic human, which is referred to as a ghost lineage. Now, what exactly is a ghost lineage? A ghost lineage is an archaic human or species that we have DNA evidence for, but we don't actually have the fossils. Denisovans are a pretty good example of that, at least until fairly recently anyway. Now, apparently the African ghost lineage that has been discovered in our genome, or the DNA evidence that has been discovered in our genome, is as distinct, evolutionary speaking, as Denisovans and Neanderthals are distinct from modern humans. Now, the big question is, who or what is this species? Now, Professor Joshua Akey of Princeton University seems to think that there may well have been what you might call a Neanderthal sister species, which essentially means that the common ancestor that led to us, Neanderthals, and Denisovans also led to another species of human. Now, this is not exactly set in stone, but these are just ideas or hypotheses, or hypothetical, if you like, that 700,000 years ago, the species that led to us, Denisovans, and Neanderthals also led to a sister species, which I suppose you could call the Neanderthal sister species. And could it be that the Ihoiliru skull is a member of this species? We don't really know. Or could it be a hybrid of early modern humans that also interbred with another archaic human? This is what makes this so fascinating. I'm particularly excited because this was discovered in my country, Nigeria. There have not been many discoveries like this in Nigeria, that's for sure. Now, I'm certainly hoping that we will discover more archaic human fossils, especially in West Africa and especially in Nigeria. Well, I hope so anyway, because I'm absolutely fascinated with this story. And we now know that the story of our evolution is a lot more complex than we ever imagined. There were many humans, and just like there are many species of cats, many species of whales, many species of camels, many species of horses and rhinos and crocodiles, you could go on and on. Humans are actually no different. Obviously, we used to think we were special and we were the only member of our species. We now know that's not the case. And we now know that up until fairly recently, we were not alone. And there are newer and newer discoveries in Africa all the time, and not just in Africa, but all over the world. I don't know about you, but I find the whole story incredibly fascinating. To think that up until, well, 13,000 years ago, there were other human species roaming the planet. I find that incredibly humbling. I find that incredibly fascinating. And I am certainly looking forward to more discoveries like this. And I am hoping that we will one day find DNA. What is being discovered in Africa is fascinating. We now know that, again, like I said earlier, Africans show evidence of DNA from archaic humans. It is fascinating stuff, and I look forward to producing more episodes about human evolution and just biological evolution as a whole. I hope you have enjoyed this as much as I have, and I look forward to our next episode. Please like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you very much, and be curious. Goodbye.
Not like this we did. Not like this we did. Not like this we did.